Chief here in Washington, D.C. for our brand new network. Joining me now, one of our top correspondents in Washington, Mr. Joe Khalil. A lot of news, highly anticipated events today, the release in South Florida from that magistrate judge of the affidavit. In other words, the sworn deposition from law enforcement, the justification for why they staged that unprecedented raid almost 3 weeks ago now at President Trump's residence and resort of Mar-a-Lago. As expected, you can see a lot of the pages look like that. Absolutely none or very few written words that you can see here on some of them. So heavily redacted to protect sources and methods. But there are some pages that do reveal something of what the Department of Justice and the FBI were after, what they were looking for when they conducted that unprecedented and shocking raid that has not only shocked the political community here in Washington, the legal community, and is gained. Is there a headline that we are getting today from this release of the affidavit?
Well, I think what we get is that there are a couple of gaps in the timeline, really understanding the story, that these documents, this affidavit now fills in a little bit. As you mentioned, there's a lot that's been redacted, as you're seeing there on your screen. Out of 38 pages, to my count, about 21 pages are either all or mostly redacted. But I want to focus on just the tidbits that we actually do have, and some of what is either new or what was reported and not officially confirmed that is now confirmed by this affidavit that we have now. So the thing that I think stuck out right away is just that we have a picture of how long this dispute was going on between the National Archives, the Department of Justice, and former President Trump and his attorney. So I want to start there, because according to this new affidavit, back in May of 2021, that was the first time that, at least recordedly, the archives requested specific missing documents from President Trump. Now, remember, think about this. May 2021, and they were requesting these documents all the way through December of 2021. So that is an entire period of time that they had been going back and forth, the National Archives and the Trump team, his attorneys. Finally, in December of 2021, they were informed there were 12 boxes that were found located at Mar-a-Lago that did contain some classified documents. They ended up ultimately getting those documents in January of the next year. So it still took quite some time. We also know that when they finally did get new documents from Mar-a-Lago, this 15 boxes of it in January of this year, what they ended up finding here, I thought it was interesting. I'm going to quote exactly so I don't get it wrong here. What they ended up finding in those boxes were, quoting, newspapers, magazines, printed news articles, photos, printouts, notes, personal presidential records, and a lot of classified documents, all of it mixed together in these 15 boxes. So that is what the National Archives received in January. Eventually, you go forward a couple of months, they actually had to get the Department of Justice involved, and it was then a couple of months later that
you're talking May of 2022, I believe, right?
May of 2022. That's the first time that now this becomes a criminal matter, because now the National Archives has reason to believe there are more of these documents. The FBI is now looking at the documents they have. So all of that is new that we didn't know before that we now know. Just gives
and just for our producers, page 17, paragraph 47 of this release here, it lists some of the numbers involved. 184 unique documents bearing classification markings, including 67 documents. This is from May 2022, FBI agents conducting a preliminary review of the 15 boxes that you talked about, Joe. 184 unique documents with classification markings. That's the range of classifications from top secret to confidential, including 67 documents marked as confidential, 92 documents marked as secret, 25 documents marked as top secret, which I believe is the highest level of classification, highest level security classification. Further, the FBI agents observed markings reflecting the following compartments of disseminations of controls, and it uses these classification markings here. Based on my training and experience, again, this is a sworn affidavit from law enforcement justifying the probable cause that a criminal act had been committed for conducting this unprecedented raid. Based on my training and experience, says this unidentified individual, I know that documents classified at these levels typically contain NDI, which is classified material. Several of the documents contain what appears to be the first lady's, the former president's, POTUS, the former president's handwritten notes. And Joe, this is the key here. The probable cause. This is what everybody wants to know. Mm-hmm. And yeah, all of these redactions protect sources and methods, law enforcement. There is some indication from this affidavit that people involved in this, they're trying to protect witnesses from intimidation or retaliation, is a quote, but it's probable cause. And the probable cause that they list is that this is possible obstruction of justice and that there could be more documents. There could have been more documents on the grounds of Mar-a-Lago that were to be recovered in this raid. And that's what, as far as I know, we don't know quite yet, because this is an affidavit from before the fact. We don't know exactly what they recovered during that raid. Isn't that right, Joe?
Yeah. So I think it's right to point that out. We don't know that. We don't know exactly the things that they went after. But according to this affidavit, what we do know is that they felt they had probable cause, that there is evidence that obstruction was found at Mar-a-Lago.
Obstruction
at Mar-a-Lago, which means not only was the FBI looking for documents there, but they have some reason to believe, and they were able to convince a judge, there is also evidence that somebody was trying either to hide or destroy or something along those lines, the documents that were at Mar-a-Lago. Hence, we think there's probable cause of evidence of obstruction at the former president's home. So that was a pretty key takeaway. If we can take just a step back and think bigger picture here for a second, one of the things I also found interesting, this is the first time that we're actually seeing the words here, the FBI launching a criminal investigation into, among other things, how these documents ended up leaving the White House improperly. There was some speculation, Vic, that the Department of Justice may not have been intending to charge anybody with a crime, that they may just have wanted to get the documents back, right? That the intention of this may just be, this is a potential national security threat if there are top secret classified documents outside of a secure area. We just need the documents back. I don't want to speculate much, but it appears that this is the first bit that we're seeing, I think, that might swat that theory down. Right. Because again, the FBI saying we're opening a criminal investigation to determine, among other things, how these documents left, presumably looking after who may be responsible for those documents leaving.
And Joe, just to let our viewers and streamers and folks on the web know, the former president, now has a statement out. He put it out on his social media website, Truth Social. I'll read it very quickly here. The affidavit heavily redacted, 3 exclamation points. Nothing mentioned on, quote, nuclear, a total public relations, nuclear meaning nuclear secrets that had been alleged or reported or speculated upon that would have been found in these documents. Of course, we should hasten to point out that we don't know exactly what is in the documents. Yeah. Continuing with the former president now, a total public relations subterfuge by the FBI and DOJ, our close working relationship regarding document turnover. We gave them much. He gave them the 15, but I think it's been documented in a lot of the correspondence that we've seen that's been released going back and forth, including by Trump's ally in the media like John Solomon, that the National Archives was becoming increasingly more alarmed and ultimately, as you pointed out, Joe, had to bring in a Department of Justice because they simply weren't getting what they thought they needed. We gave them much. Judge Bruce Reinhart, now this is the magistrate judge in South Florida, I'm continuing now with former President Trump, should never have been allowed the break-in of my home. That's the former President Donald Trump's phrase there. He recused himself 2 months ago from one of my cases based on his animosity and hatred of your favorite president, me. Okay, those are unsubstantiated, so we're going to stop right there. But Joe, and to our producers, I want to point out page 22 of the affidavit and paragraph 61, which appears to show that despite the claims from the president and the people around him, including his lawyers and his top aides, that it was in a secure facility. Yeah. The documents were in a secure facility. This would appear to dispute that. This affidavit would appear to dispute that.
I smiled because we were on the same exact page at the same
time. Okay. Well, why don't you take it from there, Joe? It's also up on the screen.
There you go. So you can read this page on your screen. What I think this is important to note is that we have been hearing from President Trump's attorneys, and they have been in the media in the last couple of weeks referencing this exact moment. We heard that at the beginning of June, or around the beginning of June, they did get a letter from the Department of Justice asking for more documents and saying, if you have documents at Mar-a-Lago in a room, make that room more secure, add an extra lock. I think that was the Christina Bobb actually said on our air. Christina Bobb being one of former President Trump's attorneys. She said, the DOJ told us, listen, these documents are in there, just make it more secure, add a second lock. She stopped at that point. I think we're getting a little bit more insight into that back and forth, because when you read this affidavit from the affidavit itself, it says the DOJ making the attorneys, letting them know Mar-a-Lago does not include a secure location authorized for the storage of this information. It does say here, we ask that the room at Mar-a-Lago where the documents had been stored be secured, and that all boxes were moved from the White House to Mar-a-Lago be preserved in that room in their current condition until further notice. So I believe that is what Christina Bobb is referring to when she says that the DOJ told them, just keep them in that room, secure the room. It appears the DOJ said, keep them in the room until further notice. And we obviously know what ultimately happened there. Just a few short weeks later, the FBI came in and raided this specific room and got these documents and retrieved them. But it was
I'm searching through some of the, and there's also a letter from the lawyers that goes back and forth that's included in this release. Whether or not, I write on behalf of President Trump, one of his lawyers, Jay Bratt, writes regarding the above referenced matter. I'm not sure if they are still making the case, is the former president and the people around him, including his lawyers, that he had declassified these documents. It's been widely reported, and it's probably a widely known fact at this point, that a president can declassify anything he wants to at any time. There's, obviously he can't do that once he is no longer president, or she, or any president. So I'm not sure if they really get to this issue, whether or not they're still making the claim that President Trump had declassified these documents, purportedly sensitive documents, highly classified documents, whether he essentially wiped that classification, away by taking them down to Mar-a-Lago. And still, of course, the key question remains: why did the former president, do that? Why did he feel the need to take these documents, whether they were classified or not? And apparently they were, at the highest level of classification, some of them, down to Mar-a-Lago. And again, we have to repeat, we're talking about the affidavit is based on the materials that were already in possession of the Department of Justice and the FBI. What was left in Mar-a-Lago, or whatever was retrieved from Mar-a-Lago in the controversial raid, we still don't know what was in there, and what they included. So again, probable cause is the reason why you fill out an affidavit to justify legally, take it before the judge, the magistrate in this case, Judge Reinhardt, Bruce Reinhardt in South Florida. They want to know how that stuff got to Mar-a-Lago, those documents got to Mar-a-Lago, whether there are more there, why they were there to begin with in the first place, and who removed them, I think, are some of the outstanding questions, and what the law enforcement, the federal law enforcement, the Department of Justice, and the FBI were after. Joe, what else is, if anything, has jumped out at you? And again, not a lot, sources and methods, as they say in Washington. And remember, this process had gone on for what, Joe? Give us a little background on this redaction process. Who asked for it? Who asked for these to be released? And what brought us to this point?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just earlier this week that we found out the judge in this case, Judge Reinhardt, was going to authorize the release of this affidavit. We know that the President Trump has publicly said the entire thing should be released. The Department of Justice did not want that, because clearly this investigation still ongoing, right? So when you're doing an investigation, presumably you have people that are feeding you information. The DOJ doesn't want to reveal that. The DOJ does not want to reveal how they're doing this investigation. So they wanted this to remain sealed. Judge Reinhardt just decided Monday that, yes, parts of this were going to be released. He allowed the Department of Justice to basically call their own shots and keep everything they wanted secret. And that's what they did. That's why you have, out of these 38 pages, 21 of them look like this, where they are blacked out.
Right.
Justice wanting to do that. And Judge Reinhardt allowing them and approving just yesterday, actually just within a matter of 4 hours, all of the redactions the DOJ wanted to keep hidden. Look, I do want to point out that today there's another deadline.
Right.
It's for the Trump legal team. They filed a separate motion in a separate court. They say the FBI and the DOJ are looking through our documents right now. We want that to stop. We want it to stop until what's known as a special master, sort of a neutral arbiter, can oversee the DOJ and FBI looking at these documents. We don't know what's going to end up with that, but a judge in that case who got that request from
a different judge than Judge Reinhardt,
a different judge, basically said, we don't know what you're asking for specifically. Make your request more clear. So the Trump team today, they have until the end of the day today, I believe, to submit something else to that judge. And I bring it up because in these documents that we are looking at right now, the Department of Justice actually includes in here a document about the privilege review team toward the end of this affidavit. And what the DOJ has said and has released to us is that they have a team right now going through all of these documents. If they find anything that falls under attorney-client privilege, that they think may fall under executive privilege for whatever reason for the former president, they say in these documents they are going to be removing those and eventually returning those back to whomever rightfully they belong to. Obviously, when you hear from President Trump, he does not trust that process. And part of the way we know that is he's asking for this special master, that designation. But I did think it was interesting at all that the DOJ decided to include that because they didn't have to.
Right.
They clearly want everybody to know that's the process they are going through as well. And they chose not to have that part redacted.
Right. And, on that special master, there have been questions raised about a delay in the Trump legal team or on the part of the president for asking for that, because if you talk to legal experts and lawyers, they'll tell you that would have been the first thing that came to mind. But there was a 2-week lag in between the actual raid of Mar-a-Lago. I know the word raid is controversial. Let's call it the search. And the request to bring in a neutral party known as a special matter in legalese. Okay, Joe, I think we've pretty much covered it from soup to nuts. A lot of breaking news here today on the unprecedented search at Mar-a-Lago of a former president's home by federal law enforcement, still reverberating. The legal battles now, you got to believe they're just getting started. But today, a major event here in the release of this heavily redacted affidavit on the part of law enforcement justifying their reasons for conducting this search, which is, again, shaken the political, legal, and legal communities and gained worldwide attention. Joe, you're a star here in Washington. Great to talk to you, man.
Always good to be with everybody.
All right. Thanks for everybody for watching. We'll talk to you next time.